500 Days of Summer stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel and is directed by Marc Webb. Yes, the same director who ruined Spider-Man. The movie follows the on and off relationship of Tom and Summer, mostly from Tom's perspective, over the course of 500 days, hence the title 500 Days of Summer. And I will admit that makes a lot more sense than what I originally thought this movie was about. I originally thought this movie was just about two people falling in love over the course of one really long summer. Yeah, I was really far off. Now, as you can probably tell by the day this video is being released on, I'm reviewing this movie because it is Valentine's Day, and even though I don't exactly agree with the holiday, I still thought it would be nice to review some sort of romantic comedy for this specific day. And to be honest, as I was looking through most romantic comedies, I realised that a lot of them are pretty bad. There's only a small handful that I would consider being good. And then I stumbled across 500 Days of Summer again, because it is a movie I've seen before, and I realised I completely forgot how much I loved this movie, and I was like, yes, that is the movie I'm reviewing for Valentine's Day. I'm not reviewing some piece of shit like, I don't know, New Year's Day, or Mother's Day, or hell, even Home Again. I'm not reviewing any of that shit. I'm reviewing something decent. Now, when I first saw this movie a couple of years ago, I knew I really liked it. But thankfully, after watching it again for this review, I love this movie. It's easily my favourite romantic movie out there, just because it does everything in its own unique yet very realistic and relatable way, which I think makes it so appealing to watch and just gives it that much more rewatchability. And there's so many things that I absolutely love about this film, especially starting with the performances. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel, their chemistry is really, really good in this movie. And I've been a fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt ever since I first saw him in Inception. I love this guy as an actor, and I think here he is really good, and you do feel for him throughout the relationship. Zooey Deschanel, on the other hand, I think she's really good in the role, and I'm really glad I did rewatch this movie again for this review, because the first time I saw this movie, I did think the character of Summer was a bit of a bitch. But luckily, after rewatching the movie, I can kind of see where she's coming from now. I still think there are a couple of times in the movie where she's a little bit of a bitch, but all of it kind of makes a bit of sense the more you rewatch this movie. You can always take something new out of the movie with each viewing of the movie you have. And the main thing that I take away is a different perspective of Summer with each experience of the movie that I have, which I think is a real detriment to how good this movie is. The other things in this movie that I think make Tom and Summer's relationship just so relatable are certain things like the incredibly realistic and very believable dialogue, the non-linear storytelling that they approach that they took to this movie, because believe it or not, it's told completely out of order. You are shown all of the 500 days they are together or not together, but they are shown in a way that kind of makes each one a parallel. For example, one minute you might see day 50 of their relationship, where they're doing something really happy together. And then the next scene will be day, I don't know, 100 and something, and it immediately juxtaposes exactly the same thing you've just seen, but later on in their relationship where they're not quite happy together. And it's those parallels that keep happening throughout the movie, which are strengthened by the fact that it's shown out of order, that I think make it that bit more relatable. Also, despite the fact that, like I just said, the majority of this movie is very believable, very realistic, and very relatable, you do also have some incredibly unique, inventive, and creative scenes that really do things that I've really never seen in a movie before, that you would think would stand out in a movie like this, but luckily they don't, and in fact they strengthen the relatability of this movie. Just to name a few of these scenes, Just for example, you have the famous expectations versus reality scene where Tom, this is like kind of later on in the 500 days where they're not together, but I think they're very loose friends at this point. And Tom is invited by Summer to a garden party that she is hosting. And you are shown this split screen perspective of what Tom wants this party to go, how he wants it to go. One side you're shown the expectation of how he thinks it's going to play out, where he suddenly becomes connected to Summer again, and then on the right hand side you are shown the reality of it, which kind of acts as a, you know, again, another juxtaposition in this movie. And come on, the reason I say it's incredibly relatable is because, I mean, who hasn't done that? You've gone to a party, or some social event, expecting it to go out one way, but it just completely goes the complete opposite way, and it's not exactly what you were expecting. So that scene really does encapsulate a relatable and realistic side to it, despite how unique and creative it is filmed. Another scene in the movie that does a very similar thing is right after Tom and Summer have had sex for the first time. Tom then goes to work with this huge song and dance number that, again, would feel really out of place in a movie like this. But to be honest, it is incredibly relatable because, I mean, who wouldn't be making a song and dance about having sex with the girl of your dreams for the first time? Of course you're going to make a song and dance about it, and they do it in the most literal way possible, thus making it a lot more relatable. Also, the song and dance number, it features Hall & Oates, and I love Hall & Oates, so of course I'm going to like that scene. I also think this is a beautiful looking movie, not just from the cinematography standpoint, but from like the way they position the cameras and the movement of the camera in certain scenes. I think everything from a technical standpoint is on top form in this movie. And whilst we're talking about the technical aspects of this movie, I have to mention the soundtrack. And I don't just mean the normal like pop music songs that they use from bands like The Smiths, Regina Spektor, Doves, Temper Trap. Those songs are all really good, and it's my kind of music, so I'm going to love it anyway. But the score as well is really good for the moments that it comes through, because it's like a good 50-50 balance of indie music and score, and I think they are both used at the best possible times in this movie. Also, one thing that I forgot about this movie before watching it again for this review is just how funny it is. I wouldn't say it's laugh out loud funny. I wasn't laughing every couple of minutes, but there are a couple of moments in particular that had me laughing quite a lot, and that's mostly through the way it's written. The way it's performed and the way it's written is just incredibly realistic dialogue that I didn't really think much of the first time I saw it, but watching it again, I just realised how out of place but how realistic these little lines were. They're very small moments that made me laugh, but they were just really funny moments that are the kind of things that you kind of misinterpret in regular everyday conversations, which I think is what makes them just so funny. So yeah, with all of that being said, I'm going to give 500 Days of Summer a 10 out of 10. It's one of those movies that, like I said, is very realistic but also very relatable at the same time, but isn't dreary or depressing about it, but instead takes it in a more uplifting and very positive tone. Because throughout the entirety of this movie, no matter how sad the scenes got, I just had a huge smile on my face because I was enjoying the experience so much. And it just goes to show how good of a movie it is if I can keep a smile on my face for that long. Because a lot of movies nowadays are either really dark or really depressing, which are kind of the same thing. And it's nice to watch a movie now that can just, you know, make you feel happy in the best possible way. So guys, that was my review of 500 Days of Summer. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Bye!